Good morning, back to it, and thank you so much for everybody sharing yesterday's chat with Helen Garlick. I really appreciate it, and please don't forget to like and follow the Out of the Bubble page as well if you're enjoying these interviews. And today I'm really excited to be joined by Lisa Clifford, who is a motivational coach and speaker, and she's also a Firewalker trainer and coach. So I can't wait to start this conversation off and find out more about Lisa. So good morning.
Good morning, lovely. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be on the receiving end.
It's lovely to make these connections. And we've made a connection through one of our mutual friends, Annie Stirk. And when she told me all about your story, what you're doing, I was like, I've got to talk to this lady. So how do you describe yourself to people?
Oh, wow. Gosh, that's a good question, because I don't usually describe myself to people. I'm a massive believer in I'll let somebody experience me, and then their description of me is the right one. However, I'm not short of words, so I'll happily give it a go. How would I describe myself? I'm a massive explorer of the human potential, and not so much of what we can put ourselves through and, those hard knocks create the warrior within us, but more about what is possible for us when we align ourselves in a really harmonious, graceful and connected way, just what is possible. So everything that I do with people is about bringing out the part of them that they wouldn't ordinarily access on them by themselves. So when they set great goals and then part of them wants to run back into the cave and say, I want to go into this lovely safe dark space, not back out there where the risk that I might fail, whereas I hold the space for them whilst they dare to dream. First of all, people daren't dream in case they start dreaming, realizing that what they want isn't what they've got, and then how to live with that awareness. And so hold space whilst they dare to dream, because I believe that our dreams are highlights of what's possible for us, and where I hold them in having the courage to go for it. So whether that's in business, often people play out their potential in business because that's an arena that feels familiar, or whether it's in their personal lives. But ultimately, I feel like my purpose on this planet whilst I'm here is to help people live their most powerful and purposeful lives. I did all right, didn't I?
You did, well done. That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. I can completely relate to that as well, because I really like to push myself out of my comfort zone. It's where I know that I grow the most. But I do still experience that bit of kind of the fear of you step out of your comfort zone and you achieve something, but then I quite often like to run away back and retreat because it scares me, and then I have to take a couple more steps forward, and I still think I've got work to do in that. So I can completely relate to that. Have you always been this way, or how did you get to where you are now, to knowing this is what your purpose was?
Oh, it's a really good question. I think most people live their entire lives not having even thought about what their purpose is. It's a really good question. What do you do for a living? It's a great question, because if I really think about it, when I was a little girl, my childhood was very challenged because my mum was very, very poorly. She had depression, clinical depression, and through her own very difficult childhood, it then came through in her adult life, and I remember thinking that my life was so extraordinary, not in a great way, but still in an extraordinary way, that I can't possibly have this life for no reason. I mean, my mum did commit suicide when I was 14.
Oh gosh, Lisa.
Younger sisters. And but it wasn't a sudden thing, I know that some people, when they commit suicide, it's out of the blue and there was no warning signs, but for me it was a bit like the end of a suffering for her, and a really severe mental unwellness suffering, like clinical hardwired depression. So for me it felt like a blessing, and but I knew that there was no way that I had this life born into this life. I had the wisdom at the time to think I've got this for a reason. Now I'm 50, so back then, the kind of professions you go into was nursing, vet, solicitor. Well, I wasn't academic. I was busy, trying to be street smart at home. And I wanted to be an actress. And because I thought I want to be in front of people, but I also wanted to be a nurse. So I couldn't. Now it makes total sense.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
What my life was, what my feelings and my inner wisdom were showing me. But back then it was those straightforward typing, secretary, solicitor, nurse, doctor. Well, I wasn't equipped for most of those. My sisters were very academic and very clever, but not me, my younger sisters. And so I then, left school and went to pre-nursing college, but couldn't keep that up because I couldn't keep the funds up, and I'd left home. My dad had married my stepmom, who was pretty cruel. I won't go into too much detail because she's still got family alive, but she was pretty cruel to me. So I left home at 17, never went back. Had to stand on my own 2 feet. Eventually worked in hospitality, where I had a kind of stage.
Yeah.
You're always walking in amongst people, helping people, and I loved it. But then, and that grew into a career. I always knew I wanted to do sales, and that eventually grew into me doing a career in sales in hotel groups. And I felt so very, very lucky that I had people that believed in me, that gave me jobs that I couldn't do. most of us get promoted into a job we can't do until we do it, and yet so many people, when they're going for jobs, think they can't go for it because they can't do it. I have a lot of people around that, but and then I remember feeling very restricted, and I'm a real free spirit. I mean, I want the freedom to do what I like when I like, and I remember feeling quite restricted, and that my kind of life was in the venture capitalist hands, because I always worked for hotel groups that were backed by venture capitalists. I did a job, so I was headhunted a bit, and I just knew that one day they could just put a line through my name. She didn't perform last month, get her out. And I thought, I have no more certainty here than I would do somewhere else.
Yeah.
And at the same time as I knew something had to change, I read a book, and it was called The 10-Minute Life Coach. Didn't even know what life coaching was. But in the book was a question: what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And it was from that question that my life is unrecognizable, completely unrecognizable. And I answered the question fully and wholly, but without job descriptions, without job titles. Said I'd love to work with people, helping them believe in themselves. Still didn't know what coaching was. Didn't even know who Tony Robbins was. Somebody said, "Oh, you should." I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
And then so it was in the power of the mind. So I trained to be a clinical hypnotherapist. I then trained with the Coaching Academy to be a coach, corporate coach, and a business coach, of which the business coaching was easy for me because my job had always been about growing revenue in hotels, hotel groups. And so, and then became a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis. And I left the company once we got the share options and went straight into running my own business, of which there was plenty of that wanting to run away into the cave.
Yeah.
But what I realized was actually my soul has found a way for me to have the work done on myself because I needed it. You can't go through childhood trauma of which there was a lot, rejection and abandonment, paranoia. I don't mean like schizophrenic paranoia, but thinking that people were talking about me all the time, and isolation and insecurity. I was riddled with all of those things. And yet I had done so exceptionally well in a corporate world, being responsible for £46 million worth of sales accountability, never being sacked, and and yet I'd done it through sheer determination and bloody mindedness, and it was hard to be successful on those terms, but I was so proud. I was proud of myself, but I was so proud that I couldn't ask for help, because would I not be that great person that I had, you know, put the armor on and become if I had help? And what would get unraveled with that help? Because I knew the past, and what would get unraveled? Would I ever recover from the unraveling of picking it away? And so I really felt like life navigated me onto the self-development world, if maybe only to save my own life.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I do the work with people. And then the firewalking.
Can I just ask, how old were you when you were changing careers and stepping into this new arena?
34.
Right.
Yes, 34. Yeah. Yeah. Which seems quite young, and I still feel like a newbie at it. I still feel like a grown-up is going to tap me on the shoulder and say, right, don't know how you've got away with this for quite so long, love, but really go and cash in your chips. You've been found out, which I think
so many people can relate to that.
Yeah. But the firewalking came about when I just thought one day, how can I help people believe in themselves without a shadow of a doubt that if their heart wants it, then they can achieve it. And a little voice went, firewalking, and another voice went, stupid, you're too short. And that'd be great, wouldn't it? And I thought, but I'm just 5'1". I'm a woman. It's the SAS guys that do that because building fires and getting people over them is. And I thought, you could Google it, Lisa. You could Google it. And what if you went to the originator? Who's the originator? I mean, whoever originates fire. Well, what if you went to the best? Find that person. And so, again, another experience where I found Peggy Dillon. I had no idea who she was. I didn't even know another firewalking instructor.
I love that you've just taken this idea and you've not put any limits on yourself and you've just run with it. I think it's amazing. I really do.
Thank you. It was a little bit like, I always think that life shows us the next little chapter, because if it showed us the whole lot, we'd be like, I'm not doing that, as if I could do that. It kind of reveals the next little bit. You think, well, I can do that next little bit, and I can do that next little bit. And so, and the training with Peggy, I waited a year for my course. Now, anybody that knows me as Lisa Clifford. I want it now. If I can't have it now, then I'll change what I want. And so, but with this, I waited a year, and I thought I was going to get a very practical experience. This is how you build fires, and this is how you run your seminar. Everybody sits at desks. And when I got there, I thought, what on earth have I arrived at? I was at a spiritual retreat in Scotland. I wasn't spiritual. I can't even say I believed in God. I would refer to the universe. I would look around at people and think, what? I don't know why you're having this experience that you're having right now. We're all becoming firewalking instructors. But Peggy is a spiritual leader in the world, and lives by the belief that at some point in our lives, we will all need somebody who is our spiritual mentor to hold belief in us until we can claim that belief back and run with it.
Yeah.
And I've studied with her for 12 years now.
Oh, wow.
But in the first 4 days of that course, I just thought, I don't know what I'm doing here. These are not my people. I don't understand them. But it was the healing that I most needed to be the instrument in the world that I'm required to be. And I would not have got the healing and the deep inner work had I not been trained by Peggy to be an instructor, advanced instructor, master instructor, and now I'm an instructor of instructors. And to be trained by the woman who brought firewalking into the westernized culture for our human healing, because she could see that our westernized minds were devouring us. And she just said, we need something that, when she first experienced firewalking with her husband, Tolly, who said, when they first met, he said, do you want to come over to mine tonight? And we're just doing a little ceremony. She said, oh, great. And she went over, and he was with a group of people, and he said, would you like to walk over the fire? And she walked over, and at the end of it, she sat on a tree stump and thought, that's just changed me. how do we take this vibration into the world where people have an experience that defies logic but heals on, like it's a really healing element, but heals us in a way that shapes the way that we move in the world, that is a lot more self-acceptance and focus.
And when you did that first firewalk, then did that really have a huge impact on you? Kind of from the moment you'd done it, did you think this has changed something in me? So
interestingly, I did a firewalk with Tony Robbins where it was awful. We walked over 3. So this was just when I got free tickets to Tony Robbins for doing quite a lot of courses with the Coaching Academy. And we walked over 3 gravel car parks barefoot, and we walked over the fire going, yes, 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 or coal moss. You didn't, and it was just an awful experience, really. But what it did do is make me think, I just walked on fire. I did that. I could have stayed in that room. I just stepped up. And I felt proud of myself for that. But then when I got trained by Peggy, I realised the contrast in the way he does it, which he has to get people into a heightened state to walk over the fire quick, and that's by bringing that kind of energy up. When I trained with Peggy, the maintaining your inner power inside you, and if you want to express it with joy as you go over, and ceremony and ritual and celebration, but not as I am doing something to this fire. I'm definitely not going to let this beat me. And anytime that I've heard somebody have that mindset, they've got fire kisses, because they're not going over in alignment, they're going over in a contrast. So I have had many of those experiences where I've gone over. It's not just the first time. The other week I did a fire walk for a management development program, and it's their fire. We inject it with lots of intention, and so the coals are there to manifest our heart's desires. And I thought, we'd just come out of lockdown. It was touch and go as to whether we would be able to do it on that date. And we just got locked down. Everybody was still in that kind of cautious, fearful space. And I went over the fact that I need this. And just something inside me went, boom, you're back, Lisa. Just like my soul felt, it just had a bit of medicine that it most needed. And unless you have the experience, you don't know you need it until you've had it. One of those, how many times do we have that experience where you think, I didn't know I needed that, but by goodness, I needed it. And I can't believe I probably wouldn't have had it. But, and often the experiences that we need are far more lasting and valuable than the ones that we want, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to doing it. I know I'm joining you at the end of March, end of August.
And there's another one in March as well. If you've got another one in March,
but I am nervous about it. But I am also looking forward to finding that kind of inner peace to be able to do it. And I can kind of, I can imagine that it will have an impact on me. I'm not quite sure what, and we'll see. But what is it, do you think, that stops so many of us from getting past that fear to try new things in life and do different things?
People have a lot of head chatter, a really lot of head chatter. And I think there's a couple of things that stops people from stepping into doing the things that they really want. One is, there seems to be, the biggest that people have, or that I hear most frequently, is I don't want to be disappointed. And then the other thing that happens is their mind is just in its usual wash machine program of, but what if this happens? What if that happens? Well, catastrophizing what's about to happen. So we have a program that runs in our mind, and that is a template. Not a template, a model of thinking, a pattern of thinking that we're just automatically doing, that we're not even, checking in with it and saying, hang on a minute, who said you could say that to me? And is that even true? And it might used to have been true, but is it still true today? We need to declutter what we think and then refocus on what's now factual, because a lot of our thoughts in our mind are white noise, and they're navigating us, and we no longer hear them. And so it's interesting when we did an event, Steve and I did an event last week for his company, and there's an exercise that we do, which is the arrow break, but that brings people's stuff to the surface, but you get to hear out loud what, quite often what's happening in somebody's mind. Oh no, I can't do this, I can feel it, it hurts, oh my God, no, I'm going to fail, and you get to hear that. And that's the program that's running in their mind a lot. So when they're about to do something, so what I love about the processes that I use in it brings to the surface so we can see it in an undeniable way what our mind is thinking. And then we think, is that helpful? And is it true? And is it true? And is it helpful? And if it's neither towards what you're doing, then we need to look at catching ourselves thinking it and saying it and acting on it. So quite a lot of the things that hold people back is their own internal dialogue, which is so easily fixed. But I think there's a really old belief, and I don't know if you ever heard your dad saying it or granddad saying it, which is, oh, what's all this self-analysis, navel gazing? You need to stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about others. Those kind of things. That as though thinking about yourself is bad.
Yeah.
And in fact, who are you if you don't clean your own house? Your own mind.
Do you think people are scared also of showing that vulnerability as well? I mean, you talked earlier about the fact that you held everything together for so long because you didn't want to kind of show the vulnerability in yourself that was deep down under the surface. Do you think people are still scared of that?
I think they are, and I think also it's becoming more acceptable to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And Brené Brown.
Yes.
And the brilliant work she's doing in the world, and maybe people are buying their bosses books on how to lead courageously or lead into the wild or whatever it's called, and so I think that there is that. I think a lot of people like to be strong for each other, and there's a belief attached to that if I'm strong for you, it therefore means I can't show you my vulnerability because you won't be able to rely on me. So there's that kind of equation that goes on, that to be strong means that I can't show vulnerability.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to be there for a lot of people, but actually I have a massive belief that people associate with our imperfection, not our perfection. And there's a brilliant line in Marianne Williamson's Return to Love book where she writes about our deepest fear. And there's a brilliant line where she says, which one is it now I was going to refer to? As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. And I think that we so often think that shining bright is going to hurt someone else. Somebody will feel like they're good enough around me, so I'm just going to dim that. I know I've done it.
Yes.
I know I've done it so many times because I'm a harmonizer. I'm a keep the peace person.
Yeah.
Now I just do what we truly do. I just walk away. It needs too much glue to stick together. Then I probably should just walk away. But it's not necessarily right. But I think that people shining bright and being an inspiration or celebrating successes is just not the British way. And
certainly not for women. I think it's harder for women to do that, isn't it?
No problem.
No, I think women do still really struggle with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. We tend to, like you said at the beginning, Lisa, what do you tell people about yourself? And I said, I don't. I let them discover me for themselves rather than me say, well, this is who I am and this is what I do and this is how I am. I hopefully explained my purpose. So my other half is a Firewalking instructor trainer. He's been doing it for years, and he has no problem saying, this is what you'll find about me, this is how I like to do things, this is a success I've just had. He has no problem doing that. And I say, and then he'll share about me in a way that is very, Lisa's this and Lisa's that, and I say, please don't say that. Why? I said, well, let them discover me themselves, because I don't feel like I need to be announced for them to have an opinion of me before they meet me. I'm quite happy for them, one day I might not be that way out. I'm quite happy for, and maybe that's just an inner confidence or an inner knowing, or just lazy improving myself. But I think just going back to, I think if what I love with as we allow our own light to shine, and we unconsciously give others permission to do the same, is the more all of us shine bright, the more we can hold the light for people until they can find their own way.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's not necessarily about dominating the airwaves with bragging, but more by being a light. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. And it's one of the reasons why I love doing the Out of the Bubble podcast, because I get to share and put the spotlight on other women, because we've all got a story to tell. And I love making those connections, and everybody has a moment. And I think we need to do so much more of it, particularly women. We just need to be so supportive of each other like that, and pass that spotlight around.
Yeah, because it is more women that will say, who am I to do that? And I need to be careful because, and then women think about the knock-on effect of, if I'm successful, then my son who's not finished his degree might feel that I'm not giving him enough attention. And, there's whereas men think it and do it.
Yes. Yeah.
But when women apply too much consideration into their thought, that then means, actually, I should stay doing what I'm doing now, without a coach. That can be women's downfall, is their over consideration to others, and particularly mothers. Because from when the baby's little, they're used to, I'll eat when the baby's sleeping, so they start that rhythm of I'll feel my needs once the baby's had theirs, because they're a bit more demanding. But then that rhythm continues to play out at work 20 years later, with friends, all sorts of different areas, that they don't realise that they're still in that rhythm that was initially a great rhythm for a crying newborn baby. Yeah,
that's really interesting, because my youngest is 18 and she's going to university this year, and I have gone into this new phase of, actually, no, it's my time again now. I don't have to be, obviously I'm still there and I'm still nurturing, but it's a different relationship, and it's cutting those ties and changing the way your mind thinks. And after 20 odd years, that's quite difficult to do for lots of women, I think.
I can imagine, because you know who you are in that role, and now you're changing the role a little bit, and what else will change?
Yes, yeah. How do you feel about aging? You mentioned that you were 50. I'm 50 this year as well. I've just turned 50.
Well, I'm just looking at the camera thinking, is my face falling forwards into people's...
You look gorgeous. But do you think, has your age changed the way you think as well? Do you care less about what people think? And are you much more in your own lane?
I through knowing what I know about the mind and projection and insecurity and all of those things in how people's minds work, I don't really, if I care about somebody, their opinion matters to me, but I choose who those people are. They're like Brené Brown talks about this a little bit, but generally I'm less. I used to be a big prover, before my self-development process began when I was 34. I was always proving who I was, because when I was a kid, my stepmom would tell me that I was worthless and that was nothing, and that nobody liked me. So then I got a lot of energy into proving to other people that I was a good person and that you can believe in me. And so people's opinions massively mattered, more than they ever should have done, because of the situation with my stepmom. And as I've got older, I've been so relieved of that burden.
Yeah, liberating.
Whether people like me or they don't like me is probably none of my business. It's much to do with where they're at, what resonates with them and what doesn't. And I am not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Sometimes I'm barely mine. But as I've I mean, I've even found myself saying, Steve, do you know what? I'm really irritating myself today. Really, really important. But, we have to love our humanness and not reject parts of ourselves. And so as I've got older, I've let go of that proving myself. And even just saying it feels good, because it just can just be. And if you like me, then that probably says more about you than me. You've got such a great big capacity to hold all sorts of different characters. And if somebody doesn't like me, then I probably triggered something within them that reminds them of themselves that they don't like. They might see a side of me that, isn't particularly pretty and sensitive and loving and kind and all those things. It might be that little part of me that can be a bit abrupt, for example, and it might trigger something within them that is overwhelming, and therefore they don't like me. So we are all things, just some of the things are dialed up sometimes and other things are dialed down. We're not absent of any of the character traits, we just are not always in them all. And that sometimes people might identify within their connection with me a familiar feeling that relates to a bad relationship they've had. So I might use a phrase, for example, like, I don't know, money doesn't grow on trees, and somebody might, oh God, my granny used to do that and she was such a penny pincher, and I remember she used to lock the cupboards, and then I've triggered that feeling. They look at me and they feel the feeling they had towards the granny and they don't like me. So that's what I mean when I say quite often somebody's opinion of me is less about me and more about themselves or their own experiences. And as I'm more accepting of that, I mean, of course I like people to like me.
It's human nature, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to be able to make a difference for those that want it. But I think that's the one thing in terms of aging and the way that I look. I struggle with that. I've had a little bit of Botox, and that I do like having. But the other thing, my spirit is a spirit of the grown-ups are going to tell me off. I watched the end of Grand Designs last night. It was the last 15 minutes, the best 15 minutes.
Yes, I did too.
Did you?
Yeah, I love that program.
Did you see last night? I think it might. Yes. And the lady in it was younger than me, and I thought, oh my God, she's so good. She was an artist.
Yes.
And I thought, she is so grown up for her age. And I thought, and those were my feelings about somebody who says I'm 50 next. And I thought, oh, you? God, I still feel like that young spirit with some sense of wisdom.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't know what 50 feels like. I don't feel 50, and it's not something I consciously think about. I still feel, in fact, I feel more like my younger self now than I did in my 20s and 30s and 40s. I feel more like my...
Why do you think that is? Why do you feel like you're young?
I think because I'm doing the things that I've naturally really enjoyed doing, that were in me, that got lost along the way, and now I've rediscovered them. So it's like finding, like you found your true purpose and your passion. I think it's rediscovering that. Yeah.
I think when you're doing your purpose and your passion, it brings a fire in your belly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Simply doing tasks to get through the day doesn't.
Yeah.
And is the burning reason why you leap out of bed and feel good about the day ahead.
Yeah. I can't wait to come and join you, Lisa. I'm so excited about it. How can people find out about you?
I'm having my website redone, but it's still there. But please be gentle on me when you go on it. It's powerforsuccess.co.uk. Or you can come and join the Be Unstoppable Club Facebook group. And I'm Lisa Clifford. So, friends request me, and if you look sane and you look like we're going to enhance each other's worlds, then let's play together.
Thank you so much. My last question that I started asking guests now, because so many women are bad at accepting compliments about themselves. We always push it off and kind of rebuff it. So what compliment would you give yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. That then I'm really pleased that I was able to open my heart, that I can live with an open heart. And that the compliment is because that took a lot of work, because my heart was shut down and I did everything in my head. So to live my life, so my compliment is that I am proud to live my life with my heart open.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and such an interesting story, and I love what you're doing. It's amazing. And I shall review this after we've done our fire walk at the end of the month. I'll perhaps get you back on again. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Bye. Well, what an interesting lady, and I will do a review after I've done my fire walk with Lisa at the end of the month, so you can find out more about it. But I love sharing these stories, such an inspiration. And I will be back tomorrow with Judy Craddock, who is a body confidence coach. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I will be back tomorrow.